evil is in the eye of the beholder. That is not true. And it shows a low regard for the souls of others. It is also a highly illogical argument to make. If evil is in the eye of the beholder, as people say, then it would be fine for a person to go out in public completely nude, and the only ones doing wrong would be those looking at him. If a female or male has concern for the spiritual well-being of others, she should be careful how she dresses. Here is an excerpt from a church bulletin. Dear sisters, on behalf of and for the benefit of men who are seeking to live in accordance with the will of Yahuwah and to keep themselves pure and holy, to the end that you not encourage them to lust, and for your own eternal welfare, please do not call undue attention to yourself or expose yourself by wearing immodest apparel. Holy men do not want to see your thighs or more in clothing that is too short, your cleavage in tops that are too low, your navels in tops that are too short, your undergarments in clothing that is too thin, nor the curves and characteristics of your bodies in clothing that is too tight. Please look in the mirror at yourself, front and back, and ask yourself if your attire is becoming one professing holiness. You may need to make some changes. Remember, Yahuwah said, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. In light of this, we need to consider other people when we are choosing our clothing. How should the church approach modesty? For people who are members of the church, this is especially important because people who are believers are representatives of Yahuwah's body. The way a believer conducts himself reflects on the precious church of Yahuwah. There's a very interesting passage in 2 Corinthians 3:2 that says, "You are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read by all men." The Apostle Paul is writing here that believers are walking Bibles, living examples of Mashiach's teachings. What happens when a believer dresses immodestly? Believers need to realize we are a holy people. 1 Peter 1:15-16. As children of Yahuwah, we are to set our mind on the things above, not on things on the earth. We must guard ourselves and not be conformed to this world. Let's say others know that an individual is a member of the Church of Mashiach, and they hear that person stand and defend the plan of salvation, what the Bible has to say about baptism and the proper type of worship. If that person is then seen dressed in provocative clothing or publicly engaging in practices that even much of the world views as sensual, how is the world going to view the church? Listen to the description of what Mashiach thinks about his church. Husbands, love your wives, just as Mashiach also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. False ideas about immodest clothing. Does modesty apply to sport clothing? One idea is that immodest clothing is acceptable if one is involved in a sporting event. We have already briefly touched on this, but the Bible does not lay aside principles of modesty so that someone can win a swim meet, compete in gymnastics, or even be a cheerleader.